going on, guys? I am Simple Simon and I make YouTube videos about comic books, collectibles, nerd stuff, and every now and then I like to do UFC fight prediction videos. Today I thought I'd do something a little bit different. I've been wanting to do like maybe some videos just where I talk about certain fighters, and I figured what better way to start that off with the biggest name in the sport, which is Conor McGregor. Now at this point in time, basically we're preparing for Conor McGregor's return against Donald "Cowboy" Cerrone, which is coming up this weekend. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about how Conor McGregor won me and lost me as a fan, as well as where he stands as far as greatest fighters are concerned. I'm also going to talk about how important this fight is to McGregor's legacy, and I'm also going to give you my prediction on that one fight coming up at UFC 246. So, that out of the way, let's do this. Alright, so I first discovered Conor McGregor when he became a two-division champion in the Cage Warriors promotion. I read an article about this Irish guy who basically became a two-division champion in the smaller promotion and was basically seemed destined to do big things in the UFC. So there was a lot of hype behind Conor McGregor coming to the UFC. So when he first came, I had my eyes on McGregor. I also had heard a lot about Gunnar Nelson too, before he came to the UFC. So, and those two obviously used to be training partners. I don't know if they actually train together anymore, but they used to be training partners. So when those two first came into the UFC, I had my eyes on both of them, thinking these guys are both very good, and they did very much impress me. When I first read that article about McGregor winning the two titles, I actually looked him up on YouTube and watched a bunch of his Cage Warrior fights, and he was very impressive. Striking was poof. But when McGregor came to the UFC as a featherweight, he was absolutely just very impressive. You can say what you want about McGregor and his career at the moment. Everyone seems to be focusing on, he hasn't won a fight since Eddie Alvarez, which was a long time ago, but his featherweight run was undeniable. I mean, he's got names on his resume such as Max Holloway, Diego Brandao, Dustin Poirier, and Chad Mendes, which I think was probably his most impressive performance in my mind, as well as his 13-second starching of one of my favorite fighters, Jose Aldo. So you can say what you want about McGregor and where his career is at the moment, but I think people obviously forget that his featherweight run when he first came to the UFC, he was very active and he was taking out big names and very good fighters. And then came the Nate Diaz fight, where basically Conor was very much humbled, fighting a much bigger guy. He obviously lost that first fight by submission. Look, as a fan, I'm a big Conor McGregor fan. These days not so much, but as a fan in the beginning, the thing I liked about McGregor was, when he lost to Nate, he took it like a man. He was humbled and he spoke about his loss, not in a sore loser type of way, I guess. But what I really wanted from Conor was to just go back and defend that, that featherweight title, which he didn't do. He said he was going to do that. That's the thing that was the first thing that pissed me off about McGregor, was he said he was going to then go back to featherweight and dominate that division, but instead he eventually had the rematch with Nate, and obviously won that, which I am one of those guys who thinks Nate won. But look, the fight was close enough that I'm not going to get mad about it. I guess I was rooting for Nate, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I believe Nate won the rematch as well. Yes, Conor knocked him down in all those rounds, but look, you can't just give 10-8 rounds because you got knocked down, right? You have to be dominating that round, in my opinion. But look, like I said, good on McGregor. I'm not getting upset about that, that he got the nod. So after that, instead of going back to featherweight and then doing what he said he was going to do, he decides, mate, I'm Conor McGregor and I'm going to go and take the lightweight belt. And of course, he just absolutely destroys Eddie Alvarez, which, to be honest, just seemed to be a tailor-made matchup for him. And then of course, he goes on to the money fight with Floyd Mayweather. Even after the Floyd fight, I was still a fan of Conor. There were things that he did which I didn't like, but I was still a Conor McGregor fan. But then of course, he takes all this time off, he doesn't fight, gets into all this kind of trouble. And look, some of those things, I don't get mad at people when, they struggle to deal with the pressure of being a superstar, but when you're doing things like throwing trolleys at buses and punching old men at bars. Like, that's, come on, mate. You're a professional fighter. Why are you going around punching old men at bars? That's just ridiculous talk. So yeah, that's where he really kind of started to lose me as a fan. I'm just like, what are you doing, Conor? But at the end of the day, I'm not one of those guys who's going to hold grudges and things like that. Like, I do forgive people, and I understand that we're all human and we all make mistakes. So yeah, like, I'm not totally mad at Conor, but like, just some of those things, just like, come on, man, what are you doing? What are you doing, Conor? So of course he then comes back and gets mauled by Khabib, and now he's basically preparing for yet another comeback against Donald Cerrone. So the thing with Conor is, a lot of people talk about him being one of the best fighters, one of the best featherweights. Look, he's up there, but as far as greatest fighters of all time are concerned, like, he's not even close. Like, he wouldn't even be in my top 20. A lot of people who watch the sport know that, you know, and a lot of fighters will say that, you know, winning the belt isn't the hard bit, defending it is the hard bit. To stay motivated, to stay hungry against all these guys who want what you have, you know, that is the hardest thing, I believe, in the sport. And Conor has never ever defended a title. Basically, when he became a champ in Cage Warriors, he did exactly the same thing. He won the featherweight belt and then went straight to lightweight, won that belt, and then came to the UFC. And like I said, his featherweight run in the UFC is undeniable. You cannot take away how good that run was. Won the featherweight belt, goes to welterweight for 2 fights, comes back, doesn't defend the featherweight belt, he fights the lightweight belt, and then he, you know, goes off into the money fight. So the guy's never ever defended a title, not once in his life. And to me, that's what makes the greatest fighters. Conor will never be in that conversation for me. And at this stage, look, not saying that it's too late, but I don't see Conor ever really entering that conversation. So Conor really needs to prove that he's one of the greatest of all time by basically staying active and just sticking to the sport. Like, seriously, today I didn't read the articles because I believed it was clickbait, but I saw 2 headlines saying Conor McGregor said there was talks about a Pacquiao fight, and then there was another article that said Conor McGregor wants rematch against Floyd. I didn't click on them, but I hope that's not true, because seriously, man, like, did you not learn your lesson, mate? You are not gonna beat either of those guys. He really just needs to stick to cage fighting and stay active to really rebuild what he began. Like I said, in the beginning, McGregor, absolutely phenomenal, undeniable of how good a fighter he really was. But at this stage, you know, everyone knows his flaws. Everyone is skeptical on his gas tank, and you know, I guess a lot of people feel like he's only had 4 losses in his career, and all 4 are by submission. And I guess the thing that sort of pisses me off the most about Conor at the moment is that he still feels like he has the right to do, you know, that he's still Conor McGregor. And look, he is Conor McGregor. He is still probably the biggest draw in the sport. But I just feel like he shouldn't really be able to parade around and just do whatever he wants. Oh, I must headline this event and this and that and this and that. I mean, I understand the guy's looking out for his, you know, back pocket and stuff, which is fine. Yeah, when you haven't won a fight for so long, I just feel like the MMA world is, you know, very unforgiving. Many of the people who follow the sport will know the saying, you're only as good as your last performance. And Conor hasn't had a great performance for a long time. So, what is the importance of this fight coming up this weekend against Cerrone? It basically means everything. I was saying, since his first loss to Nate, I said, if Conor loses again, then he means nothing. I mean, 2 losses is all it's going to take for people to just stop caring about Conor McGregor. That's all it's going to take. And seriously, I can still see him having 2 losses in a row, or 3 losses in a row even, and still parading around like he's Conor McGregor. Like, dude, the sport's going to forget you quick when you start losing. So this Donald Cerrone fight coming up this weekend is so important to Conor. He must win this, and if anything, he really has to do it impressively. Cerrone is coming off 2 straight losses, so a loss to Cerrone is really going to make McGregor almost irrelevant. And I think it's really stupid that it's held at welterweight too. Like, I like Cerrone more than McGregor, but I almost want McGregor. I don't really have a preference of who's going to win this fight, but I almost want McGregor to do well, you know, because he's obviously done a few interviews where he's basically, you know, he's admitted that he's embarrassed about the way he's behaved in recent years and things like that. And I want to believe him. Like, you know, I've seen the good side of Conor, so I want to believe that that good side still exists. And, you know, when he did that big interview with Ariel Helwani, talking about, you know, hitting that guy in the bar, You know, and how that's not how martial artists should act, and how he's embarrassed about it. I mean, absolutely, that's not how a martial artist should act. So yeah, look, I want to root for the guy, and I want to see the guy do well. But yeah, I just really think Conor McGregor's legacy is, you know, yes, one of the biggest draws in the sport, but so far from being one of the greatest fighters, and I don't think he's really ever gonna reach that point, to be honest. I guess I'll just go to my fight prediction for this fight. If this matchup happened years ago, like, you know, maybe like when they were having that press conference and they had their back and forth and the fight was at lightweight, absolutely McGregor all day, right? But at this stage, he's obviously taken a lot of time off. And look, if anything, I believe the hype that he's bringing into this fight. Everyone's saying he's motivated again, and you know, he's looking the best he's ever looked, and you know, even Conor, he's not being the loudmouth Conor that he used to be coming into this fight. To be honest, I do believe that hype, and I absolutely can see Conor coming out and absolutely just putting Cerrone away in that first round. However, I cannot tip Conor McGregor. I just can't do it. His one fight in the last however many years was to Khabib, and obviously, well, Khabib's Khabib, but yeah, like I said, you're only as good as your last performance, and your last few performances, you looked gassy. He actually didn't look that gassy against Khabib. He's obviously tired. I mean, who wouldn't be tired against Khabib when that animal's just bloody crawling all over you? But yeah, the gas tank is obviously always going to be a question when it comes to McGregor. Cerrone at welterweight as well, I feel like he's got a better chin, and obviously this is not the same Cerrone as a few years ago when I think Conor would have probably destroyed him. This is Daddy Cerrone. When Cerrone had his most recent kid, like, he was a changed man. So I feel like Conor's real, like a lot of people are probably saying this, you know, Conor's obviously, you know, a bloody absolute demon coming out the gates, while Cerrone's a very slow starter. So yeah, I feel like the only way Conor is probably going to win is exactly that, like coming out in the first round and absolutely just starching Cerrone before Cerrone gets any time again or gets any rhythm going, you know. But Cerrone is a veteran, he's been around for a long time, and when Cerrone went to welterweight, I noticed he did a lot more wrestling, and that is going to be key in this fight. Will Cerrone try to wrestle? And the thing that scares me is that Cerrone, I feel like he's going to have a bit of an ego thing going, nah man, let's stand and bang, right? Cerrone obviously is known as a guy who puts people away with head kicks, but he's also got way more submission wins than he does knockout wins. He is awesome on his back as well. So yeah, Cerrone's ground game is nothing to be messed with, and I'm pretty sure Conor wants no part of that ground game. So yeah, my pick for the fight is going to be Cerrone. Like I said, I'm not that confident in it. I feel like I said, I believe Conor, and I believe the hype that he's bringing into this fight, that he's back, but I just can't bring myself to tip him. The guy's been out for too long, and Cerrone has been active. He went on quite a, you know, Cerrone's had quite a few runs in his, you know, in his career, you know, where he's then hit a roadblock where he had a loss or two, and then people wrote him off, and then he comes back. I'm gonna tip Cerrone for the Conor fight. I don't know how he's gonna do it, but all I know is he has to survive that first round. The longer the fight goes, obviously, and look, everyone knows this is no secret, the longer the fight goes, the more chance Cerrone's got to win. I feel like Conor really has to put him away in that first round. Maybe Conor can do it in the second, but beyond that, I just don't see Conor being able to finish Cerrone with his strikes, while I feel like Cerrone could potentially knock out Conor maybe later in the fight, but obviously has a very good chance of submitting him as well. Yeah, I'm going with Cowboy. Again, like, I like probably Cowboy more than I like Conor. I don't really have a preference who wins this fight. Kind of like, I want to see them both do well, to be honest. Like, as much as Conor's pissed me off in the past, I'm not gonna, yeah, I don't wish any, you know, bad on the guy. The guy's had some great moments that we've all enjoyed. So yeah, that is my prediction for the fight, and I guess that's my video for today. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, leave a comment, leave a like. If you hated it, leave some hate speech, whatever. Until next time, keep it simple.